Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm creating a Happy Meal card saying good luck using the Word Buddies Woodland from Hello Bluebird as well as the Whimsy alphas from Mama Elephant. Now first of all I'm starting with the cuties from Hello Bluebird, and I think these are wonderful. You don't need to use them on words, but I think if you have a lovely script that they fit perfectly as I'm using them today. But also there was one die set called You Make Me Smile from Hello Bluebird itself. I also bought that one, so I am convinced I'm going to use these Word Buddies with the You Make Me Smile die set as well. But just until then, I'm using them for today's card. So I have taken a few of these images. I didn't want the card to be filled with critters because, well, you know, overload isn't the right thing all the time. So I just selected a few. I wanted it to be uneven because apparently, unconsciously, I'm always trying to think that way, but apparently as well, thinking in numbers of 3 and in this case 5 really helps with design. So I'm stamping these images on Transotype perfect coloring paper, and I'm using Gina K Design Amalgam ink. Now this ink is good for watercoloring as well as for Copic Markers, but this paper is not for watercoloring. I'm doing some Copic coloring today, really simple Copic coloring. I'm also limiting the markers. I have listed them on my blog as well, but if you see here what I'm doing, then you will probably notice that there are several colors returning. I just differentiate in the darkest markers that I'm using, and then I am always ending up with my lighter markers being the same. So that's really funny, but also really handy. If you're new to Copic coloring, it's always handy, I think, to have a combination where a lot of markers can be used for another combination by just changing 1 or 2 of them. So that's what I'm doing today. Also, a lot of my favorite brown combinations are ending here today. And if I'm honest, the image where I was looking up against to start coloring was a raccoon. And in the end, the raccoon is my favorite one that I colored today. Why did I, avoid starting with it? It's just because this is an animal that I don't see daily. Not that I see a fox daily, but you know what I mean. And I need to look it up every single time that I'm starting to color a raccoon. As well as, well, the raccoon's eyes normally are darkened around it, but then you need to be still subtle so that you can see the eye, you know? So that makes it a bit difficult for me personally, but I love this combination that I used, and I think if I will do the raccoon again, I will definitely check out my blog post to make sure that I'm using the right markers for it. So again, for the blog post as well as the copy combos on it, there is a link in the description box. That's always handy. Now, as you also see me color and probably already know from previous videos, is that I prefer adding at least 2 layers to the images, because I think that the blend really is better when I do that. So having said that, this combination for the bunny is going to be a really light one, and this is also the combination that I often use when I'm doing some blonde hair. So just so you know. The other ones I use when I want to create, well, brown hair. Okay, that being said aside, these bunnies are colored in exactly the same way. I'm trying to create a shadow there where their backs are. So if the bunny, the second one for example, is facing towards us, then I'm trying to get the shadows on the right and the left side to get it rounded, like I did the bear as well. But then the fox, there the back is on the left side, so there you can see the shadows as well. But it's all about having fun and just liking the end result. I'm not really that bothered about the shadows, because apparently the shadows come from every side when you check all these images. And the raccoon, well, there I did something different. I did the shadow on the back, but I started with the face without seeing the back. So I started with the face, facing towards us, so I did the shadow on the left and right. Well, we will ignore that little mistake, it was not intended, but I actually truly don't mind. I think it's a cutie and that's the most important thing, and I enjoy the coloring and I like the end result, so that's what it's all about. Again, doing a second layer. Also, you see me doing some flicking today for the transition. Sometimes that helps if you're having troubles with blending, then this can definitely be a way that you should try, because that might help you. But if you're doing critters, I actually don't mind doing some flicking even if I don't have issues with blending, because I think personally that it can sort of reflect the fur of every critter, and that's just cute. So that being said, on to my favorite one of today. I'm using some warm gray markers. There are several sorts of grays in the Copic markers. I only have the warm grays completely, and then I have a few gold grays, which are also lovely. But I have noticed, since I have the cold ones, that if I'm using browns, I actually prefer having the warm gray, because there is some sort of a brown tint in it. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it goes better. It's warmer, as it is said already in the name, and therefore it's just handy to combine it. So that's it for the darker grays. I will do a second layer, however, and now I'm just using some of the lighter grays to add the rest. Then I'll do a second layer, and for the ears and the noses I'm using the same marker, so I kept it until the last minute so that I could just go over everything all at once. So I'm building my way up, and while I'm doing the second layer I always find that I go darker, because I know how much space there is for the lighter color. So you also know that you can go a bit further without having a really dark image, and that's always handy. It's harder to go back from having a dark image and finding it too dark and then lightening it. So onto the ears, I try to keep into account the shadowing that I did, but then at the same time, there where the ear is sort of followed towards us, there is also shadow behind it, so that was kind of the idea behind the shadowing. But again, whatever you like, whatever you prefer, that's what you should do. So on to my second layer, really quick. These are only really tiny spaces, so... And then once that's done, I'm going to take the matching dies and cut all of these cuties out. So now for the background, I have taken a piece of printer paper, so it's a really thin one, and I'm going to add some colored strips. Now first of all, I'm using the double-sided adhesive sheets from Fawn. This is the first time that I'm using it, and it was not as easy as I thought it would go, but then this background, I really liked it, so I did it already again before I did this voiceover, and I must admit, a second time you know what you will have to do or how sticky this adhesive is, so it goes better the second time. But you will see here that the beginning was rough, truly. I also glued on my hand a few times, really annoying. And here, well, this one went wrong and I thought I could still take it off, but that was not the case, so I actually ruined this part of the adhesive. But I just continued with my stripes. I got better in it, taking my time, and then at the end I'm just adding one more stripe with some adhesive to make sure that I can fit an A2 size panel on it, and then I will cut it out. So for my card base, I am using the basic rectangles from Mama Elephant. It's that basic rectangle die that I always use. There is stitching details. I love that. So that's always handy, but whatever basic rectangle you have, whatever brand, that will just do the job. I just cannot trim out an A2 size panel by hand. I truly can't. I have tried many times, it's always crooked. Something goes wrong, I don't know what, and I don't like it. So I prefer using a die, and if the die adds some stitching details, I'm even more lucky, I think. So I've cut out the Good Luck using the Whimsy Alphas from Mama Elephant, and I'm going to double them by layering one on top of the other. And I'm only going to show you a few of them. It's always the same, you just add the adhesive and then you add the second layer and then you make sure that it is aligned straight. Now onto the card. Trying to get everything aligned correctly, it's not always easy, and I really needed the critters as well to make sure that placement was alright, because I'm going to add some critters in between, and that's why some of the letters will be more spaced from each other than others. So I couldn't just add them centered, because that wouldn't work for, in this case, the raccoon. I just love it. I think these critters are adorable. The bear hanging on the O, the bunny sitting in the O. It could also sit in the D, but I just prefer them being a bit together, the critters. And now I'm going to add the letters using some liquid glue. That also gives me a bit of time to wiggle everything around. And so I can continue with adding all the letters. Now, making sure that there was space enough for all of my critters, especially the bunny and the fox. I didn't want them to overhang. Now, you can do that, and I think it's adorable. But there is one thing that you need to get, and that's that I live in Europe, and we have normally other sizes of cards. Now, just because all the dies and the brands that I use are from America, I also use the American sizes, but our envelopes are actually also the other size. So if I do a overhang of my critters, we have thinner or the same size of thickness of envelopes, and then the width, and then the other length is longer. So normally European cards are a bit longer but smaller, and so our envelopes are like that. So if I do overhang, then I have issues. If that wouldn't be the case, I would definitely let the fox or the bunny, one of the two, hang over the edge, because that's even cuter, I think. But just for the purpose of being able to mail this card, I decided to keep it simple and just make sure that it fits. So for the critters today, I am using just some thin foam squares. That helps me because, as you remember, I did some doubling up of the letters, so it's a bit higher. If I wouldn't have done that, I think I would just add them with some liquid glue or a few with some thin foam squares, but now it was also handy to be able to add them around the letters. So I'm also avoiding the space where the letter sort of is, just to keep it simple and not have it too bulky. And that's how I'm doing it. I'm just continuing, sometimes adding a bit of liquid glue there where I am not adding some thin foam squares. And then the final one, this raccoon, truly my favorite, I'm going to add it leaning against the K. And then it's time for embellishments. So today I am using bubbles. You know, you cannot go wrong with bubbles. I already said it. Oh, first going to add it to a card base. Really simple, using some Pritt adhesive roller. Any adhesive roller will do, but I prefer that over liquid glue, definitely when it's a flat panel, just because. So then, on to embellishments. I am using bubbles today. These are from little Things from Lucy's cards, and I'm making sure to use a variety of sizes, trying to spread them a bit around on top of this panel. And then I will use some liquid glue to add everything in place. Also, something that is really handy, personally I find that, is having an embellishment wand or a quick stick tool or anything like that that will really help you get those embellishments in place, because well, those are tiny things and it should be right on the right spot. So this is a close-up of the card. I truly adore the rainbow colors that are provided by Concord and Ninth. They are my favorite. I hope that you enjoyed this video and of course that you like the end result. If you don't want to miss any cards of me, then definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you will see all of them. I wish you all a fantastic day and I will be back soon. Bye!